Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us this evening for this webinar. I can see a few people have come in. We're just going to give 2 minutes to anyone else who's joining in so that we can start at about 7:03, but feel very welcome. And just give us some time to accept some more members into the conversation. So as you come in, just ensure that your microphone is muted. You can keep your video on, but just try and keep your microphone muted. Okay, I think we'll just let people join in as we continue the conversation, and we'll just start on this topic, which is about stress and anxiety and what we have to do with mental health. This is a topic that I know several members have been asking about, and I do hope they join in because it has become quite relevant during this pandemic season. And we've seen what has happened to a lot of the people that we love, or people that we live with, or even just our workers and our colleagues. And we are so privileged and honored today to be joined by two very um, powerful women in the area of psychology. And the first one, and I'll introduce them to you, is Dr. Gladys Mwiti, who is a consulting clinical psychologist, PhD, and is the founder and CEO of Oasis Africa Center for Transformational Psychology and Trauma. And it houses an active psychological clinic and a robust corporate or organizational employee wellness program. So she obtained her PhD in clinical psychology from the Graduate School of Psychology in Pasadena, California, a master's in integration theology from the Graduate School of Theology, and also a master's in counseling psychology and a BA degree in psychology from USIU University here in Kenya. She's also been writing books. She's the author of 5 books, has written quite a few journals and book chapters, and is an internationally preferred speaker, trainer, and supervisor in her field. So thank you very much, Dr. Mwiti, who is also one of the 8 global trauma ambassadors for the International Society of Traumatic Stress Studies. Thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you, Vicky.
And we are also joined by Wandia Maina, who is the co-clinical director at Interpersonal Health Services, and she's held this position for very many years. And she's also a member of the Kenya Psychologists Association and a certified mediator and a regular resource person for the Law Society of Kenya and FIDA. So prior to this, Wandia was in the training arena working with Phoenix Training Solutions, where she carried out various consultancies within Kenya and the region. And she is also very passionate about holistic development of individuals. And so she combines her practice of psychology with the outdoors. And this has seen her train and guide different people and organizations to different peaks and summits within Kenya. So she's a mountain slayer. So I think we are safe to say that she's an outdoors person. And some of the people she's worked with include the SOS Children's Village. And she's also been appointed to the Kenya Water Towers Agency as a board member. And this is a state corporation mandated to conserve water. Thank you very much, Wandia Maina, for just agreeing to come on board into this session where we try and talk about the stress and anxiety and mental health issues.
You're welcome, and it's my pleasure to be here.
Thank you. So this session is being recorded, so we'll share it with people who haven't been able to attend. But to start out this session, I want to ask any of you, how do we define anxiety? Or are anxiety and stress the same exact thing? Maybe I can start with Dr. Mwiti.
Yeah, thank you so much, Vicky. I think all of us have gone through experiences of anxiety. So actually, if we could go around the room, we could just get a bucket full of answers. Yes. But it is our response to something that is not certain. It begins with worry. Take, for example, yesterday we had a webinar and group therapy with an international group, and one of them was saying, I'm living far away from my extended family, and because of lockdown, I don't know how my ailing mother is. So focus on the ailing mother. You start worrying about her. It's like, I'm far away, I can't do anything, maybe this and that is happening. So it's worrying about something with uncertain answers, and then it begins to preoccupy the mind. So you find that you have racing thoughts about her, and then you have negative thinking that maybe this has happened, And you always find proof. Proof is that she hasn't called me like she usually does. So it begins to affect our sleep patterns. When it's bad, it affects eating. And actually, it is anxiety that leads to stressful reactions because now the whole body starts reacting. Mentally, we find we are not concentrating on something because you are thinking about the sick mother all the time. We find you are not eating well, physically again, because acid enters the stomach when we are anxious. We find we are not sleeping well. So on, so on and so. So something we are worrying about begins to take hold of us as anxiety, and it can lead to stressful reactions about whatever we are afraid about.
Okay, so it seems like stress is as a result of anxiety, and they're not one and the same three and the same thing. So one day, if I can ask you, is mental health the same as happiness?
Happiness is a very subjective term. You have to be able to define for yourself what your happiness constitutes. Because if I define it for you, then you'll always be chasing a carrot or chasing, a moving target. So it's a very subjective term. So it's up to you as an individual to be able to figure out what that is. When it comes to the state of mental health, of course, there are parameters as clinical psychologists that will be able to assess and be able to tell if you're in a state of unhealth. Again, the way people are able to ensure that they stay in a state of mental wellness is also very subjective because our personalities are very different. Of course, there are the general guidelines, but more often than not, we say we need to work with you as an individual to figure out then what is a state of mental health for you. So it is also pretty much unique as well. Yeah.
Okay. So we've been seeing quite a bit of mental health cases rising up in the recent past. Largely, we could blame the pandemic or other things. But in your mind, what are those tools that you find have been missing to allow people maybe to, as you called it, not be mentally unhealthy? Wandia.
Yes, thank you. So it begins with understanding the unique circumstances that we are currently living in. In the beginning, when we were shut down in March 2020, we assumed that it was going to be for a period of 2 to 3 months. But lo and behold, here we are more than a year later, still stuck in the same situation. So because we did not allow ourselves to even process that, we continued operating like it was just something very temporary. So until we got to the point, and I'm not sure everybody has gotten to that point, that you adjust and see that this is how my life has changed. And I'm working from home, I'm constantly around my family, I'm constantly around my children. Then you start doing things that allow you to stay in a state of health in this unique situation. So it comes from first analyzing what is it that is currently going on, making sense of it, not trying to change it, but trying to make sense of it and seeing then what can I be able to do to ensure that I stay healthy within this new way of living. Yeah.
So trying to make sense of whatever is happening at this particular time. Can that lead to perhaps overthinking? Dr. Gladys, can that lead to overthinking and perhaps now getting into another whole volume of churning more thoughts?
It can be positive, it can be negative. Now, overthinking, there you put it, is negative. That is preoccupying you and worrying you again, adjusting to the new normal. Now, if it begins worrying you again, you're not going to mental health, like Wandia is saying. And so engaging the situation does not mean getting obsessed, because thinking all the time about it is you're obsessed about the lockdown. For example, obsession and thinking too much about it and obsession can be that we start feeding our minds with negative thoughts and negative images. For example, you find yourself crawling towards the screen to watch India over and over and over and over again. I'm not saying don't watch the cremations of India, because that's a very sad situation right now. But then if you find you are going to Google and just looking up YouTube videos of horrible stuff related to COVID, and then starting to speak, because what we feed into our minds cognitively is what gets into our thinking. It is what gets into our speech and into our feelings. So we start becoming pessimistic because we are thinking too much and watching too much negative material. So someone, I remember long ago, I used to have a pastor who used to stand in church every day and say, every Sunday, and say, nothing is no longer working. I mean, imagine a pastor who says nothing is no longer working. So if we are living a life where nothing is no longer working because of COVID, when there are beautiful things, like this group today was saying, hey, first time, I'm not in traffic anymore. I'm working from home, because we are talking of working remotely.
Yeah.
So overthinking is actually pushing out positive things that could be happening as we adjust to the lockdown and to the pandemic and to living differently, and focusing only on the negatives and then spewing out negative things. We become irritable. We start picking mistakes with people. We start tripping on each other in the house. That's a result of thinking too much negatively.
Okay, so then I've heard you mention that if we find ourselves going towards maybe negative pictures, maybe going towards I don't know, information that feeds that fear. That's what I'm hearing. It then tends to build maybe what we are thinking, what we're going to spew out. So I'm wondering, how then do you know that now that anxiety has come to a level that is no longer healthy and that needs to be checked?
When it starts interfering with our normal functioning. Okay. Normal functioning is as basic as eating. Normal functioning is as basic as sleeping. Normal functioning is as basic as having an organized work day. And some of us are working, most of us are working remotely. So if my remote work is chaotic, this group we are talking about, how do you work remotely and build resilience? So I start having a chaotic day. Sometimes I wake up at 10 and I know I've got a whole workload, a whole desk full of things. I wake up at 10 and then I start checking social media. I go through all the tweets in the world. I go to WhatsApp and it's 11 o'clock. Oh my gosh. Oh, and I've got a deadline and stuff. So I start hyperventilating about the deadline. So it's like it begins to affect our normal functioning when we are actually stressed and thinking negatively. And it takes away our ability to work-life balance. Work-life balance is where I know when I'm working, when I'm taking a break, when I'm eating a meal, when I'm switching off. I remember a guy saying today that, do you know what? I practice switching off work during weekends. Just like I used to switch off working from the office. I switch off now, even at home, and I create fun stuff to do with the children. We talk about it, we play games. So what I'm saying is when it starts interfering with our normal functioning, our relationships that were happy, we are now quarreling. And even sex life for the married goes down. And we find we are not happy anymore. I mean, we don't have the joy because not just happiness, what they explained, not just situational happiness, but joy. Although I'm struggling, I'm joyful.
Yeah.
So interfering with normal functioning is a telltale sign that you are getting obsessed with negativity in the lockdown.
Yeah. Okay. So this question goes to you, Wandia. I mean, during this time, we have had very many people saying, God, I'm so depressed. I am feeling just so depressed. What exactly is depression? And when we do say those words, are we really talking about the same thing? That the serious thing, or is it just a fleeting moment?
Okay, so yes, to answer your question, I can say yes. Sometimes it is a fleeting moment. So what we found is that the word depressed has been misused over the years. So you could have just had one small incident happen to you. Maybe you left your phone at home as you're going to work. Then you say, I'm so depressed, I was not with my phone. But that actually is not how we define it as clinical psychologists. It is a state of being unhappy, feeling a sense of worthlessness, hopelessness, sadness, inability to eat, inability to interact with people, withdrawing from activities that you previously enjoyed for a continuous period of at least 2 weeks. Then we'll be able to say, okay, there's something here that warrants further investigation because you have been in this state for more than 2 weeks. But for an incident that has just happened and you resolve, would not say that you're depressed. Maybe you just say, I'm feeling sad. I left my phone at home. So that term has really been misused over the years, and therefore it has also become a challenge for those who are clinically depressed to be understood and accepted. Because people say, snap out of it. I mean, why don't you just think your way out of this? But there's a clear difference between somebody who is clinically depressed and somebody who's just experiencing sadness. So I hope I've been able to explain what that is. So it has been misused over the years, that I'm feeling depressed and this and the other. Now, when we come to this particular climate that we are in the COVID situation, remember I've already said that it has to be for a period of a minimum of at least 2 weeks. And if you find that you're not being able to sleep, or you're sleeping too much, like Dr. Gladys has said, that you're still in bed up to about 11 o'clock, you're not being able to eat, your phone calls, your friends who you previously used to enjoy picking up their calls, they are calling you and you just want to hang up, you don't want to interact with them, then we need to investigate exactly what is that is going on here. So it has been, to be very honest, the cases of depression have increased during this season, simply because people have not established resilience to be able to adapt to this new situation. And therefore, that's where the mental health experts come in. During forums like this, we help you ventilate, to understand, and to also look for new ways of existing so that you at least maintain a state of mental health. Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's quite interesting, because 2 weeks is not a long time, eh? 2 weeks is 14 days. So you're just saying that for 14 days, if you are not feeling okay, just for 14 days, we need to find out what's happening.
We can say 14 days here is short. But
Yeah.
can you imagine being in that state 24 hours a day? There's no break. There's no joy within those 14 days interspersed that one day I was very happy, then it has to be continuous. 14 days is really a long time to experience that state where you're feeling very withdrawn, you don't want to get out of your bed, you're not being able to eat or to interact with people. It actually is, because if you even flip it back, in this state of sadness that people experience, when they lose their phone, they actually may be disturbed for a period, in fact, the entire day. And you'll see them in terms of how they're working at the office, interacting with other people. Now imagine that for 14 days. That really is a long time.
Yeah. And can we tell, like, maybe can you look at someone and you can be able to tell that this one has gone under or has gone to the other side, whatever terminology that may be? As me, maybe I'm trying to support my significant other and I'm busy struggling with my own issues. How do I help that situation? What are the things we can look out for?
Okay, a difference in how they're operating. So for you to be able to determine that this person is clinically depressed, I think you need to have a bit of training in that space. So it may not be easy for you to determine that.
Yeah.
However, if you are mindful and present in the interactions that you have with those closest to you, you'll be able to determine that something has changed with this person. There's something that is not quite right. And you'll just sense from their mood and how they're interacting with you. And then the onus is upon you to ask exactly what is going on. Not everybody is that mindful. Some people will go on with their days and not really interact and figure out what's going on.
Yeah.
So you have to be intentional with your relationships. That's one thing that I try and encourage people to do. Be intentional in the relationships that you have in your life. The ones that you believe are important. Be intentional, be present. When interacting with people, put your phone aside so that I can actually look at you and see something has changed today with Dr. Gladys. So I'm going to ask her, what's going on? And you'll find there's always a backstory. But if you're not intentional, then you'll miss these signs. And in hindsight, you'll always look and say, but you know what? Actually, I think I had seen something with my husband. I wish I had spoken out. And if you find that that is the case and the person is willing to talk it out, sometimes people just want to be heard. They just want to have a place to ventilate. And it's just listening to them, not necessarily providing a solution, but just allowing them to just ventilate. And of course, not requiring them to snap out of it, Some of those words really put people down. If you just snap out of it, it's a very small thing, minimizing. And if you find the person is continuing to be in that space where they are not reverting to their usual way of functioning, then you can always refer them to either a professional or somebody within their circle that they can also trust to be able to have a conversation. Human beings are relational beings. So when we're not able to relate, then of course there's a negative impact on our health.
Yeah. Okay. So Gladys, since now we have everyone at home, largely most of the time, and we're getting friction, of course, with our, maybe our significant others, and also our children are experiencing us in a whole different way. How have you encountered like this situation, and found ways that people can use to just make this experience a lot better, especially for the little ones who sometimes might be just in this thing and also just trying to cope. Someone wrote and said here they're just on gadget time 24/7, 365, and they're worried about their children.
Yeah, absolutely. Beginning of COVID-19 actually was very stressful for many parents. And what made me sad is that our nation didn't even seem to have a mental health plan to help people know how to engage COVID-19 and the lockdown. And that has continued. I've been unhappy, and I've expressed my unhappiness quite a lot wherever I've been able to. Anyway, that aside, we began with a lot of disruption. Children were not used to staying at home and doing school at home. And then they are with their baby sisters, baby brothers who want their own time. And then maybe the space is not that big that we are sharing, because I look at a huge percentage of our employees, actually, they live in apartments. And the space is not that big, and children may not even be able to go out and play. So we started with a lot of stress and a lot of disruption. But along the way, one of the things we have advised people to do, or sat with them like in groups like this one for various organizations and companies, is told them, look, you as an adult, you are the mood setter in that family. And I remember people today were saying, hey, yesterday, I'm taking away mood setting. You are the leader. The adult is the leader of that family. Now, if you are the leader, you create order. And one of the things you realize happens when there is a mass disaster. We've done a lot of mass disasters like Westgate and our bombing. I remember even Gujarat, India, 2001 earthquake. When I was called there, when I went there, one of the things I noticed with all the rubble, thousands of bodies buried, is that under trees, there were schools running. UNICEF comes in and other people come in and they set up schools immediately, because children flourish when there is routine. So what we tell people is set up a routine in your home. You know, when you wake up, not some people are waking up to eat at midday when others are doing school on the table. It doesn't work. So we know when we go to sleep, we wake up, we have our breakfast, we shower, have our breakfast, just like you're going to school and going to work. And then people go to school or go to work in their house, if this is where they are. I remember visiting one family sometime last year during lockdown. I want to drop something at 11. This is a young couple with like 11 9-year-olds. And I entered that house and I thought I was walking on holy ground, intruding, because there was absolute silence. Everyone, the mother is on her desk there. The father is on his desk in the other room. The child, 2 children are on their computers on the desk, and the housemaid is in the kitchen, quietly doing her. Do you know, I dropped what I was dropping. I said, hi guys, bye guys, and I left. Routine, order.
Yeah.
You know, get rid of chaos. So I would say that is the first thing. And then remember, children are at different ages. They may need to do their routine in the morning, and then in the afternoon they go to play. If they don't play outside, let them go to their room, create for them play space, and get them out of computers and out of stuff. Because children do not develop creativity when they're forever watching a screen. That's a researched fact. Let them enjoy reading. Teach children to read. Give them books at their level. Give them a prize if they finish reading the famous 5 or whatever it is that you are giving them. And then give them after play, then let them do their own thing they want to do. Then they go shower, they have dinner, maybe watch a family movie together. Yeah. When was the last time you sat down and did a board game? Some people are saying they forgot snakes and ladders, so they're going to buy them. So basically, order routine for adults and children alike.
So it seems like quite a bit of our stress and anxiety comes from that disruption of that routine practice. Is it that maybe it creates uncertainty, or we are just creatures that like knowing, predicting? Yeah. Oh, okay.
It creates chaos, Vicky. It creates chaos because one of the things you need to remember is we become what we practice. If we practice being a chaotic household, we shall continue being a chaotic household. If we practice order, we shall. And one of the things also people took away yesterday is, I don't know how many of us have regular family business meetings just to talk about how we're doing. And you have minutes and agenda. My husband and I have taught couples forever, and we prescribe that. And as the leader of the family who says, guys, we'll be meeting every week with COVID. Check on each other. How are you doing? Are you sleeping okay? Are you worried? And then what are we doing about meals? People talked of, by the way, cutting the cost of food. It's like, now we have to eat lunch. And so sit down and talk of the diet, talk about the menu. What are you guys going to be eating? Let children engage. And finally, get creative about hobbies. Can we learn a new hobby? Can we form a family choir? So let me stop talking. So,
Wandia, what would you have to say now that Gladys has ended up with a choir?
Remember, we said about these things being very subjective. So it's okay. If your family is the one that can sing, then you form a choir. It's not look for a different activity. But it's true. The creativity is needed during this season. And order is paramount to mental health. The people who say they like, no, I just like being very random and spontaneous. But you'll see that random and spontaneity in how their life is. It's one of chaos, as Dr. Gladys has said. So that's a story. What's it called? Routine is what allows children and adults to thrive. That's what it is. So, yeah.
Yanni, you're talking and I'm just thinking about the chaos in my house.
You can start off having family meetings as you've been advised.
And by the way, we can be chaotic even when we are alone. Chaos doesn't have to have people around us. We are very chaotic alone. And we get very anxious because we have allowed chaos to rule us.
Give me an example of alone chaoticness.
I like saying.
Let me give you an example of alone chaoticness. I can give you an example of alone chaoticness. And I'll just pull from what Dr. Gladys has said. That if you do not have a set time, first of all, of waking up in the morning, you wake up whenever the sleep ends, or whenever you're getting out of bed. That's the first thing, that there is no order. The next thing is, what are the things that you do in the morning to get yourself ready for the day? Do you shower? Do you have breakfast? Do you exercise? Do you spend time with God? Those things are generally, it's up to you to decide what it is. So if you're doing one day, you do one thing, the next day you don't do, that's chaos going on. And the state of your house, the physical things, are things placed where they're supposed to be, or are they just haphazard all over the place? And I think I was reading once about, I think it was a video or something, that something as small as making your bed every day will even help you set the tone for how you're going to proceed for the rest of the day. So that's a single person on their own living in chaos versus somebody who has got order in their life. When it comes to lunchtime, you're wondering, do I rush to the supermarket to buy some food to come and cook? Or, you don't have even planned yourself out. So that is what a chaotic life would look like. And it really drains your energy, really drains you.
So it sounds like a lot of self-management when it comes to planning, basically knowing what that in itself might be chaotic for some people.
And then Wandia, procrastination. I know I need to sit down and begin that project and have a deadline. And I procrastinate. Instead, I'm watching that horror movie for 2 hours.
For 2 hours. And then,
or those movies with a name when you know how it ends. I mean, How to Kill. How do you want to know how to kill when you have a deadline?
But men have a very clear propensity for this, the more aggressive kinds of movies, I find.
Aggressive and mentally healthy is what we propose.
Especially in this pandemic.
Especially in the pandemic. Otherwise, we find ourselves worried, and then we have deadlines that we are not not meeting. Our supervisors are becoming angry. If we are CEOs, staff are complaining. So order.
Order is so important. And once you're able to establish a routine, then it's almost seamless. You don't have to think about those things in the morning. You just do them without applying any energy there. But if you do not give yourself a routine, then in the morning, from the time you wake up, you start battling. Okay, what am I waking up today? What am I going to have for breakfast? What am I? But routine allows you to remove those mundane tasks, in terms of what you're going to eat, what time you're going to wake up, and you can focus your energy on many other things. So routine definitely is important. But I heard what you said, that it may cause more chaos only in the process of establishing routine. Okay. Once you're able to establish routine, then you don't think about it again. Now it's automatic. You don't even have to think. I mean, it becomes very automatic. So energy is only when you are developing the habits or the routines. Beyond that, it's good to go.
So you must understand that there will be growing pains when you're trying to establish this particular order, and you shouldn't let it go. Okay.
Always.
So I'm hearing that even for us to then propagate this thing of mental health, we have to pull our children and give them a sort of set routine as parents. We have to create that for them even as they're little. And those can be as simple as what time they wake up, making their beds. They don't have to be big things.
Exactly. The order is the smallest of things. And by the way, teaching children to love reading when they're young, teaching children to be disciplined about homework when they're young. I'm telling you, when they're teenagers, you don't have to remind them to sit and do their homework. You don't have to remind them to read clean books or watch clean movies, because the habit just sets in. It's all about discipline. But then there are so many parents who are pulling off their hair with 22-year-olds in their house that are an absolute menace, because they practice menace from when they were small.
There was no routine, no order. Okay. So now, going to this season again, where we are getting to a place where we're feeling overwhelmed. As in, you just sit sometimes and you're just like, I can't think, I can't, beyond here, I can't move. What are some of those tools that we can, I don't even know to call them tools. How do you get yourself from that small fleeting moment, or maybe even it's a day where you just feel things are too much, to a point of maybe acceptance or realization? And I want to encourage the audience, please do ask your questions through the chat box. I know we've been talking and I haven't invited you to ask your questions. Please feel free to ask any questions of our two panelists. So over to you. How do you equip yourself with?
Wandia, how do we manage?
Okay, so the first thing I would want to say is that it's okay to recognize that it's okay not to be okay. It's okay not to be okay. And I'll borrow from what you've said, that one day you've woken up and you're just feeling very overwhelmed. It's okay to step back and take a day off, a personal day off. Because what has happened is that people are continuously giving and pouring out of themselves without taking time to refresh and to pour into themselves. And this is something that is very common with women as well. You find that they've got very many roles that they're playing. They are mothers, wives, sister, all those things, and they want to continuously give, but they're not taking time to feed their souls. So what does feeding your soul look like? It starts with as simple things as, are you drinking enough water? Because if you don't drink enough water, of course your body is not going to function properly. Are you being able to drink enough water? Are you eating right? Are you spending time away from your gadget? People use gadgets to self-soothe. But in that self-soothing, you're also self-distracting. So you also need to have times that you separate yourself from that. Are you allowing yourself to interact with people who encourage you and motivate you and just, bring a sense of happiness? Or are you consistently hanging out with people who drain you? Because that's another thing. You also have to do self-audit. There's certain friends that I hang out with, and when I leave them, I just feel like I want to cry. And there are friends that I hang out with, when I leave them, I feel that, life can actually be better. And being very intentional in terms of getting fresh air. We are working from home. And one thing that is actually happening and has been seen is that people are being more productive, or the output is higher. You're at your desk by 7, and some people are actually clocking out at about 9 p.m. or 10 p.m. So you have to be able to determine how many hours can I give, and then take a walk. Just take a walk. So take care of yourself. Read productive things, not always on Twitter. which can just make you seem that the world is coming to an end. Feed yourself with things that refresh you. If you believe in a higher being, connect to that higher being. Exercise. So be intentional about the things that you're doing. So come up with a list of self-care tips and do them on a daily basis. Don't wait until you're feeling that my world is crashing. As part of your routine, there has to be a slot for self-care every single day. And for different people, it's different things and different intensities. Some people find that even cooking for the family or cooking for themselves give them a sense of release or a sense of joy. So then do that frequently. Try and do this. Spend time with children. You know, children are also very innocent, and their joy and their happiness can also rub off on you. So just hang out with them as well. Play the games that we're being told about. Allow yourself to experience joy, and don't always constantly feed yourself with the negative information, because there's a lot. And you'll feel that, you know, the world is doomed if you consistently do that. Yeah.
Well, I find, okay, and I don't know if my internet has gone again, but and even from the discussions, I find people talking about the fact that you feel like if you take that day off, the world will end at some point. There'll be some feregeshe somewhere. So yeah, and you know it's real. You're like, I know I should take this day off, but now if I don't continue, there's something somewhere the ball will drop. How do I get myself out of that? And this one, I stand accused, very accused.
You know, I want to take it back to what Dr. Gladys said, that you're ruminating on things that will now start causing you anxiety. But one thing you have to also be aware of, and we've seen this, when somebody drops dead, you know, the world keeps turning. And if you're employed, soon enough, there's going to be a vacancy notice. So why do you think that you're the one who's going to be able to stop the world from turning? So you have to, first of all, understand that we are human. And if you are removed from this world, the world will continue turning. Your children will continue existing. Your spouse will continue existing. The work that you're doing will continue being done.
Okay.
It's not that it is dependent on you. So you first have to understand that part, that you're a human being, and then understand what your limitations are. And it also comes from a place of lack of confidence, that you want to keep doing and doing so that people cannot get the opportunity to miss you or to see that, you know, somebody can do it better. But you need to be able to be confident in that, the fact that I am adding value wherever it is that I am. And there's only so much that I can do. Another thing is that if you do not take time to feed self, then you eventually become empty. So what are you going to pour out of? Even those tasks that you're saying I have to do, you do them very haphazardly. You find yourself snapping at your children, driving very badly on the roads, and just becoming a total menace because you have reached possibly the end of your tether. So it's a matter of self-checking and seeing, where am I? Do I actually feel that I've got the energy? And if I don't, take the time out. As a Christian, you know, God worked for 6 days and took the 7th day off. If he did that, then surely who are we?
Okay.
Let me emphasize, you know, every single word that Wandia has said is so true. I hope guys who are taking notes, or we always say in our meetings, have a list of things that you stop doing from today, things that you start doing, and things that you continue doing. She has used the word self in terms of working balance, in terms of becoming healthy and strong, in terms of thriving through COVID, self. And it is not selfish, it is self-care. And nobody else, like Wandia has said, can do that for us. Now, some of us seated here tonight are workaholics. We have two major types of personality. We have type A and type B. Type A personalities are achievers. And I would bet that many of you seated here today, even being members of Current Country Club, you are achievers. You are the guys that would top your class or would top 10. You are people who have made it in terms of starting your business or carrying on with employment and being faithful. You are people who are responsible in your families. You are the kind of people who, when you write a report, many of you here, when you write a report, no one checks for spelling because you checked it already. I mean, we are the employable guys who have taken offices and the families somewhere. Type A, hard working, committed. But the flip side of type A, we are the ones who are prone to anxiety and even to break down because of too much work. Type B personality, because I mean, we are not stuck on one, we are on a continuum. From one side, extreme type A, the other side, extreme type B, and some of us in between. I'm talking of extremes now. Extreme type B are the laissez-faire, the guys who chochote chaweza kutokea, fua kind of people who drink coffee until 1 p.m. and then they read the newspaper, although no one is reading newspapers anymore, but they read and they do the crossword puzzle and they check who died. Okay, so these are the type B. They don't worry a lot. By the way, when they are worrying about tomorrow, it's like, chochote, it doesn't matter. So we are the guys who are prone to anxiety. And that when it is self that Wandia is talking of, is because we are the only ones who can take care of self. Now, especially women. Vicky, you talked of women just now. Women have the tendency to overwork because they are multitaskers. Yeah, they are shopping, they are cooking, they are working, they are wifing, they are, all those, they are mothering, they are taking care of their parents. Now, women, because they work very hard to take care of others, they are very poor at self-care. And some of us women, sorry to say, we even feel guilty if we take an hour to nap, not just a day like Wandia is talking of. So we need to remember self-care. And I want to underline again what Wandia said, none of us is indispensable, whether at work or at home. If you fall dead today, do you know life will go on like Wandia said? If it's a spouse, after 2 years or 1.5, they'll get married again. Yeah. And someone is going to, actually, even at the place of work, we shall have prayers and they say we lost a very wonderful person, but you have already been replaced. Even people get cold in the mortuary. Why? Because work must go on. Self-care, people, self-care.
Okay. So we also have people here who are also taking care of people who have either lost jobs or, just the managers or people who are on half pay and all that anxiety that's coming with that work insecurity. So how can I be a light, or how can I help this situation where I find maybe my colleagues are maybe not coping as well. In the club we found maybe people like caddies who now have lost a source of livelihood, and they're reaching out, and of course they're reaching out in many numbers. How can we be of help to such people as they deal through these real anxieties that come from what has actually happened?
Who are you talking to? Jackie or myself?
Both of you. Who do you want to respond?
Any of you. You can both give me what, because I'm sure this is a question that you've seen. Both of you can tell me whatever has come your way.
Okay, Jackie can go first. I just finished a long one.
Okay, Wandia, not Jackie. I think Jackie is one of the participants or audience. No problem.
Wandia.
Yes, it's okay. So again, it will just start from self, because my ability to support people is different from your ability to support people. So I have to first understand what are Wandia's resources, and the resources is not only financial. Where is my emotional? What's my emotional state? Am I also supporting other people on the home front? So you have to know yourself and then do a self audit, so that you do not end up overextending yourself, which is what happens very many times. That you end up promising and doing simply because there's a guilt around, and you're not being realistic with yourself. So you start with yourself. Yeah. What are Wandia's resources like? Am I able to consistently give out a certain amount of money? Am I able to consistently check on this person to give them the emotional support? And if I am, then I do, but only within what Wandia is able to do. And if I am not, then it is also okay not to do. It's also very okay. And that's the thing that people also need to understand, that it's okay to also say that I am at my tether, I'm at the end, rather than overpromising and saying I can do and then not fulfilling the obligations that you have set out there. So it begins from you. And I want to re-emphasize again what I said. You cannot give from a pot that is empty. If you are living from paycheck to paycheck every month, then how do you start apportioning for somebody else? You should have been able to put your finances in order to be able then to say every month I'll be able to substitute or give this portion towards the caddies, as you rightly said, or to whoever it is that is struggling.
Yeah.
And then you cannot go giving emotional support to what I want to call strangers, even if within your home you're not even being able to support those ones who are there. The people who you live with, you're leaving them there high and dry. You want to go and support strangers. So first check on where am I currently, and then what is left extra, or what can I then sacrifice? Because again, you can also say, I'll make a sacrifice, and be very, very honest and realistic with the people that you're supporting. Don't build their hopes up, because we're in a very difficult season, and some people have actually lost their incomes for an extended period of time.
Yeah.
So you also have to be realistic in terms of this is what I'm able to do. Beyond that, I am not able to. So I hope I've been able to respond to your question. I'm sure Dr. Gladys can be able to add on to that.
Let me add something quickly, that Kenya is a hustler nation, and this is not a political statement.
I've not taken it as a political statement.
We are hustlers, and one of the things people need to remember always is that we always have something in our hands that we can do when things are tough. And now you've driven along some roads and you find a Prado parked selling onions from the trunk. Have you seen those things since COVID? Lots of that is happening. Why? Because someone is sitting there saying, oh, yes, I can buy onions and sell them. And after all, I've got a mortgage on my car or whatever it is. So let's give them bale of flour or whatever it is, and then ask this caddy, what other gifts do you have? Yeah, do you have any gifts you could use? Could you just go home today with your wife or with someone or your friends or your family, just sit and say, what can we do together that can bring up a small income? And you'll be amazed, because it has been said that during lockdown, so many online companies have been started. People have gotten online jobs. Others have started hustling in this way or the other. And then remind people that you will not receive forever. And after all, I'm a Christian. God says that He blesses the work of our hands, right? So what do you have that you can turn into some bread without stealing or cheating somebody? So creativity.
Yeah, I think what we're most struggling with is that balance between the guilt we feel. How are we going to support these people? I mean, and how what do I do? Obviously, there's nothing I can do, but I trying to tell myself that there is something that I can do. That struggle, and I actually hear you when you say, you're going to support strangers, and at home you don't even know how everyone else is doing, and maybe it might be coming from that place of feeling like I am not doing enough. I'm not doing enough to support
Vicky, there is also
the situation.
Reaching out to people and supporting them. Like I am deliberate on making several telephone calls every day to people I've not spoken to for some time. And I've spoken to some who say, oh my God, you made my day. I was feeling so low. So helping people is not just physical. There's emotional, there's a spiritual. There's the word of when I pray, when I remember you, I'll pray for you, or whatever it is. So reaching out to touch other people with kindness is also part of helping them.
What would you recommend? Like I know you said at the beginning that you, Dr. Gladys, that you are a bit upset. Maybe that is an understatement at the fact that we were not mentally prepared to deal with this situation. But what something small would you recommend for organizations, for businesses to do in terms of now promoting mental health? And I'll also ask you the same question, Wandia, after Gladys is done.
Okay, what we recommend is please bring your people together. We now have Zoom, we have Team, we have got the Team, whatever, you have Microsoft Teams.
Yeah.
We have Google Teams.
Yes.
Bring your people together and have a conversation like we are doing right now. We do that a lot for companies. Our employee wellness program. Just check us out. Oasis Africa Wellness .co.ke or oasisafrica.co.ke. Check our website. One of our strongest things is employee wellness. Working with companies, especially through this COVID, and humanitarian organizations from Kenya and beyond. And by the way, but because everything now for us at Oasis Africa is virtual, teletherapy and webinars, using all this kind of thing. We are really creative. And we have seen groups and groups of people. When people come together and they take away an action plan, they are stronger. And then you remind them to keep meeting on a regular basis. When they need you, then they come. And then anyone who is struggling, you tell them during that meeting, call and see a therapist. For example, for us at Oasis Africa, we service like 7 insurance companies. Anyone with UAP, Minet, AON, Pacific, whatever, won't be seen free of charge at Oasis Africa. So call and get people seen, those who are struggling. No one should be left behind. We should ensure that all of us in the company, all of us in the club, all of us at home, make it through together through COVID, unless if God decides to take one of us.
Yeah, okay. Wandia, what would you add on?
Well, I really don't think there's anything else to add on because that's what it is. We're being called in to speak to organizations. And what I've also found as we're doing a couple of webinars for the Law Society of Kenya last year is that people got the opportunity to ventilate. We took them through the process of understanding what COVID and the pandemic means on mental health. And then from there, they set up regular sessions where they would just meet to have conversations around the struggles around what lawyers are going through, because they then understand what their unique struggles are. And they're able to borrow and encourage one another. So beyond that, it's just the same thing. You know, organizations are also now adding the number of psychology sessions that their clients, the employees can be able to get. And we're also offering that at Interpersonal Health Services. So we come in, help you have the conversation, and also for those who need extra help, then they're able to come in for personal sessions as well. So it's the same thing. Just check out the website, interpersonalhealth.com, and you'll be able to see how we can walk this journey with you and your organization and also your families as well.
Okay. So that's a very practical thing, as in just have meetings, have regular meetings, meet, talk about things, give a place for people who are struggling to vent out and understand, I think, that other people are also going through the same thing as them. I think maybe that's a big thing, so that we're not all in the dark in some corner trying to think, okay, I have all this by myself. That's what I'm getting from how businesses can actually help people cope. Because I guess there's nothing else you can do after that. It's not like money is going to fall from the sky, and because a lot of these issues have been around financial, job security, also that thing of knowing that someone might be sick. You know, like your colleagues might be sick, you might be sick. Who are you meeting with? Who might be sick? So I guess it can get significantly overwhelming.
Okay. It does get overwhelming. Sorry, let me just add one thing. It does get overwhelming, but when you sit with your peers and you share, then you realize, Allah, you mean I'm not struggling with this thing on my own? The other person also going through the same exact thing. So it helps to normalize. Then you can exchange tips then on how to cope. Because when you stay in your corner, you think that, you know, the world is falling apart. But then you realize that person on their side is also struggling. How are they adjusting? So we need to allow ourselves to be vulnerable, to have these conversations, to support and to be supported as well.
Okay. I think that's a key takeaway for me. Having Zoom sessions or whatever it is with members of business, however regular that may be, and not getting tired. So we're almost coming to the close of our session. Thank you very much. Any last remarks? I'll start with Gladys.
Okay, my last remark is that many of us are employers or we work with colleagues. Just want to remind us and underline, and we tell business owners and whoever that a healthy employee, emotionally, mentally healthy employee equals to a healthy company or organization, and the productivity goes up. And if you don't take care of their mental wellness, then they'll be physically sick, and then all the money can go to medical insurance. So let's be very careful that we don't allow people to fall sick, because if we don't take care of the emotions and the negative feelings, they will now become physical. And then we end up, I remember a company last year paid 2 billion shillings, I wouldn't say which, for opportunistic wellnesses, because staff were going to hospital for coughs and colds, not COVID, everything else, because of stress that the company was not taking care of. So I think let that send a message to us: spend kidogo money, keep them mentally healthy, instead of spending billions to get them to hospital.
Okay. Can I ask a question? When do events replace other events for anxiety? Like if COVID ends this event for anxiety, next year will I have another event to build my anxiety? I'm just asking.
We don't know what will happen next year, but what we say is let's build resilience, because
Yeah.
the community shall be strong. And by the way, COVID is coming when people are already sick, people are already struggling with relationships, people are already struggling with money. So it isn't just COVID. People are struggling with so much, even before COVID. So
Yeah.
let COVID make us strong so that we grow our muscles of resilience for anything else we might face in the future.
Okay. Any last remarks, Wandia, as we close?
Yes, but even before I give the last remark, you talked about anxiety, and is there going to be something new? I want to challenge you, Vicky. Why don't you go back and see what you used to worry about in 2019? Because there was something else you're worrying about.
I can't even
and everybody else can do that as well. But so for me, my parting shot would be self-care. Start with self. Before you even decide to give to anybody else, do an internal assessment and figure out, where am I? What do I need to do so that I can be okay? So take care of self first. If there's anything I want our audience to take away, is that start with self. Take care of you. Do not feel guilty about taking care of yourself, because then it will energize you to then do what you need to do for the other people around you. Yeah.
Okay, God, I don't know how to thank you so much. I've been writing. I've just been writing my own points on many things that you've talked about on children. I think my biggest takeaway is on routine. I guess I know routine works, but I've never really put it in that context of how much energy it takes for lack of routine and all that uncertainty. Creativity. I think Gladys mentioned creativity in our hobbies, in the way that we are tackling people removing away from screen time. And then conversations. So conversations for me came in 3 ways. Conversations from with the people that we work with, develop those forums. Conversations at home. Gladys said family business time. So conversations around that. So it seems like conversations is a very key thing moving forward in tackling all this. And then self-care, and which we can't really underrate. Self-care.
And then, Vicky, setting the mood for the day.
Setting the mood for the day.
Research indicates that a depressed parent is equal to a depressed child.
Okay.
So
setting the mood for the day.
If you wake up irritable, everyone will be pinching everyone else. They'll be pouring milk, and the cat will be drinking or eating something it's not supposed to eat. Parents, set the mood. For the cats and the dogs, set the mood. Yeah, the parent, the mood setter.
Parents, in this session, we've all had, can we set the mood for the day? And even as we leave, we have set the mood for the day.
Start laughing, and we'll be laughing to the end. Start quarreling, and everyone will be kicking each other and losing pencils and pouring the milk on the cooker. Set the mood.
Sawa. Well heard, very loud and clear. So thank you very much. I can see there's very interesting comments. People are thanking you so much. We put the recording. We'll send it to you as well if you want to share it. And for the members, we'll also send you the recording and also share it out with the other members. Again, I can't thank you enough. I know, Gladys, we had this conversation. We can't thank you enough. It's very true for just coming. Those words you're saying, it looks like they're easy, but they have come from a place of vast experience, and for that we are so eternally grateful. And with that, I will say thank you and ask everyone to just leave at their leisure, and have a good evening, our dear panelists, and I will speak to you soon.
Thank you, Antia. Thank you, Vicky. Thank you, everyone. Good night and God bless.
Good night.
Bye.
God bless.
Good night.
Thank you, Vicky.
Thank you. Good night. Take care.
Thank you. Thank you, Vicky.
Set the
Good
mood.
night.
Set
Good
the
job.
mood. You've had. Set the mood. Set the mood.
Yes,
And the
ma'am.
routine.
Yeah.
Good night.
Good night.